This one came up as a request to explain the different types of reviews that we come across. Usually, we'd start with the narrative review. We would just go through different types of literature, whatever is available, and whatever we could synthesize, given a background knowledge of things, and also whatever we read upon. So it's a very unsystematic way of doing things, where we lay our hands on whatever literature we could, and then we summarize all of that. So that's the standard review that we do, as if we're writing down some notes by looking at different chapters, different journals, and that kind of stuff. Now, narrative reviews should ideally be done by someone who's a subject expert who already has a background understanding of the literature and also of the science there, and can take a good stand, which is more acceptable. But still, narrative reviews are not replicable, and we really do not know if we actually manage to reach the most relevant and most authentic resources, or did we actually appraise all available literature so that we have both sides, both types of viewpoints, like things that in support of certain evidence and things that are critiquing that evidence. So that's the overall purview of narrative reviews. They run the risk of being not just non-replicable, but the person taking a very strong stand on something that may not be generalizable. Now, could there be a mechanism in which we have a strategy that other researchers can replicate? Could there be some kind of systematic approach to the way we review literature? So that's where let us start with the most robust type of such a strategy, the systematic reviews, where we have a very robust search strategy designed to address one precise research question. So that is a bit unlike the narrative reviews, where the research questions, usually we would not have a research question or have a very broad area of exploration. But in systematic reviews, we have a very precise research question. And for that, we design a search strategy, and we look at at least two. Usually it's a good practice to have at least two databases search for that. But the more the number of databases, the better. We have a very comprehensive search strategy so that we don't miss out on any particular type of evidence. Now, designing the search strategy would incorporate some keywords, mesh terms, whatever. You can see so many examples around it. Now, we have a search strategy. We have identified the databases. We have a very precise research question, and then two reviewers or a number of reviewers would independently do that, resolve whatever conflict they have regarding eligibility of criteria. So eligibility of articles. So that means we have some selection criteria, inclusion and exclusion criteria from systematic reviews. If we extract the data from whatever literature we have and try to do some quantitative analytics on it, that is, we extract data from within articles. So data from within data, that is metadata, and we do some analysis. So that's a meta-analysis that we do on a systematic review. But you can still do a meta-analysis without doing a systematic review. So those are very rare. But then you do a general exploration of literature, you catch hold of a couple of articles, you extract the data and do an analysis around it. But that's very rare to do a meta-analysis without doing a systematic review. That's why we usually write systematic review and meta-analysis. So, for example, effect of statins on lowering blood cholesterol, a systematic review and meta-analysis of evidence. In systematic review, we also do a very good assessment of the quality of the articles that we come across. So quality assessment, risk of bias, those are very important aspects of a systematic review. These are very robust evidence synthesis mechanisms. Now, but what if we do not have a good understanding of what all literature is already available? In that case, we may still have a systematic search strategy, but it's a broad search strategy so that we identify what evidence is available, what gaps already exist. We just do a broad understanding of the literature base, but we would not cull out evidence which can inform practice. So we just do a scoping kind of assessment of whatever literature is available. We do not assess the bias, risk of bias, do not get into the quality issues of the articles that we found, just a broad understanding. So those are scoping reviews. Now, there could be integrative reviews also, where you are not restricting yourself to the quantitative studies. So you also incorporate qualitative study. You still broaden your research question. You still do have a systematic search approach to things, but then you do not have a precise research question, and it just goes a bit like broad in its approach. So whatever information you take out of it, usually people do a thematic analysis on it, and they represent, okay, this evidence is available, this is what the literature suggests. So some analysis goes into it, but it's not as quantitative as a meta-analysis, but a thematic analysis. So those are integrative review, where you integrate quantitative and qualitative studies, all types of studies. Many times students especially, they would do a systematic review, but they do not have two reviewers, so they do not manage to do it as robustly as possible. It's close to a systematic review, but it's not a systematic review yet. They would call it a systematized review. That's like a common term that students would use, but please understand that systematic reviews and systematized reviews are a bit different. Like systematic reviews are still the top-notch reviews. Now, with more and more systematic reviews getting published, high-quality systematic reviews getting published, some of the older ones being updated, a new approach has come in. Those are umbrella reviews. Those are like systematic reviews of systematic reviews. So in umbrella reviews, you should have multiple systematic reviews already published on the topic, and then you do a good quality assessment of the systematic reviews, and then you include some of them, and you run an your whatever summarization process you have, and then you give your opinion. So those are umbrella reviews. You can also come across something called a realist review. Those are like when you are trying to see how an intervention works. So what are the pathways in which this intervention leads to this kind of an impact? What things, what assumptions go in between? What things would impact the effect of this intervention? The realistic reviews. And that could be something like a rapid evidence synthesis. So those are like when again you are resource constrained, and you may or may not have a very precise research question, but a quick and dirty job. So that's rapid evidence synthesis, especially so, for example, during the pandemic times, we were so time pressed, and we quickly need to know if hydroxychloroquine works or not. So we do not have enough papers published yet, but still whatever papers are published, we want to do a quick assessment. So those could be a good opportunity to do rapid evidence synthesis. So that's all about reviews in brief, but there are papers also you can read. You can just Google up or go on PubMed and search. You'll find n number of papers which compare different types of reviews. Thank you.